Hello, and welcome to Prince George's Youth Leading on the Issue. Thank you for tuning in. My two guests today are Ciara J. Hosein, and the president and CEO of a new business called Characterville Entertainment LLC, and Miss Diedra Henry-Spires, the chief executive officer of the Dalton Daley Group, a Maryland-based nonprofit organization. I'm your host, Ava Spires. Our show today is all about volunteering, public service, and starting a business. Prince George's Youth Leading on the Issues will be right back. Hello, and welcome to Prince George's Youth Leading on the Issues. Thank you for tuning in. Joining me first is Miss Ciara J. Hosein. She is the former Director of Workforce Development at the ARC here in Prince George's County. Ms. Hosein is the president and CEO of a new business called Character Entertainment LLC. She is a graduate of Bowie State University and with a BS in sociology and concentration in criminal justice and law. Ciara completed her certificate of Christian Studies with the Harvard University School of Divinity. In addition, she is a 2019 candidate to receive her Master's of Theology with the National Bible College and Seminary, where she recently became an associate professor teaching Greek. Ms. Hosein, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Well, first off, Ms. Ciara J. Hosein, CEO, President of Characterville Entertainment LLC. What did you do as a Director of Workforce Development at the ARC?
Well, during my time at the ARC Prince George's County, I worked with individuals who had intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Wow.
Those individuals were having some small issues around finding employment. So I worked in our Employment Services Division, where I went out and marketed to different organizations and businesses in the community to see that they were afforded opportunities to work. Outside of that, I also work with Congress, senators down in Annapolis, and also Prince George's County government officials to ensure that funding was available, so that way we can have workforce training programs to enhance individuals who had disabilities.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's very great.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about Ciara Motivates, me being a motivational speaker?
Well, that is something. I didn't come up with the name. I actually work for an organization called Some, So Others Might Eat. And we would have these workshops there, and every time we would have a workshop, they would always say, Ciara, you're always motivating us. She's always coming with a message to preach to us. And so at first it was like, hey, Miss Ciara. Then they started calling me Ciara Motivates. And so every time I would give a speech, every time I would do a workshop, the students kept saying that. So essentially it went from me just being Ciara Hosein to Ciara Motivates. And as a result, I started doing workshops all around the city, DC, Maryland, Virginia, New Jersey. I even done some work in Trinidad and Tobago. And I've gone out to different organizations and be able to speak to my gift and my art.
Wow.
And that's to motivate folks. It's quite exciting for me because when you're able to give someone some information and then they're inspired to change, they're inspired to do better, they're inspired to progress, I think it's the most liberating thing that I've ever done in my life. And so by default, I was given the name Ciara Motivates. And so it's exciting, it's fun. Most people don't know my last name because they typically have given me a last name, and that's Motivate. So that's the whole story behind that, Ciara Motivates.
Well, how did you win the Humanitarian Award? That's fascinating to me.
Well, in 2016, I was awarded the Humanitarian Award by Vital Magazine. I was not aware of it. I received a phone call from the actual editor-in-chief of Vital Magazine. And he told me that he had been watching my story through social media, LinkedIn, through newspapers, about the work that I was doing in the D.C. metropolitan area, also in Prince George's County. And they were very, very pleased with my commitment and dedication to the community. And so at first, I was initially receiving an award for community advocate. And as they began to do research on some of the things that I had done, I was later given the Humanitarian Award. What was exciting about it is that I said to the gentleman during the particular day I was awarded that I only thought people like Oprah and Russell Simmons and Angelina Jolie, people who have billions of dollars, would be the humanitarians. But it really shocked me that it's not so much about the money that you give out or the things that you can buy, but it's about how much you care about the people, how much you dedicate your time to folks, how you see the world better than what it is perceived. And so when I realized I had a calling to be able to go out there and feed the homeless, I realized I had a calling to go out to minister to children, I realized I had a calling to be effective in the community, I fought very hard to do that. Wow. And so I've done marches in Washington, D.C. about violence. I've held community prayer in D.C.'s Ward 8. It's just a multitude of things, but I'm definitely grateful that I was given the opportunity to make an impact. And so in 2016, I was awarded the Humanitarian Award. I was very excited and also shocked. Now I say, look, you don't have to be Oprah to be great. You know, you can be just who you are. And so it's a very high accomplishment that I received.
Wow, that's very great. Good job to you.
Thank you so much.
So what is purpose over popularity, aka pop ministry?
So pop ministry is something I created a few years back. And the reason why I created purpose over popularity was because one of the things that I had noticed going to different churches, because this particular purpose over popularity was stemmed from ministry. As a seminary student and also associate professor at the seminary, it was very important for me to connect outside of the church and outside of the umbrella of a school system related to religion. But I wanted to get out into the community and really express what a mentor was like in ministry. And so one of the things that I saw was that there was a gap. And the gap was that in the church there were young people, there were women, who were in the same building but didn't have a connection. And so my goal was to be able to connect those who had a Christian background, those who were in the church, to younger adults, and to the youth that were coming up, because what better mentor to have than someone who's already in the kingdom, someone who already worships with you in the church. And so pop ministry was originated. Throughout that particular ministry, I make it my business that each individual young mentee and woman serve and give back to the community. And so we've done that in multiple ways by doing mentorship programs, providing scholarship money for some students. We've also done projects around feeding the homeless. We've done projects around tutoring and for academic growth in the schools. And so once this ministry was created, a lot of people got excited about it. We even created shirts. So we have shirts, and it says purpose over popularity in the front. And then on the back, each particular shirt has a scripture on there. And on the scripture, it really just talks about a woman being strengthening, a woman being encouraged. And so while I would wear my shirt and I would have, I will not fail on the back of it, the person who's behind me could also read that and know that she too would not fail. And so this purpose over popularity was very important, because a lot of times with, again, social media and different platforms on TV, people are distracted. And a lot of times they have a hard time figuring out what their purpose is. So I thought it would be an excellent idea to have women of the church to teach the young women in the church to figure out what their purpose is, not so much just with the academic purpose or the job purpose, but what was your spiritual purpose. And so that's the ministry.
Well, let me tell you, you are touching my heart today, Miss Hosein.
Aw.
How did you come up with the name Characterville Entertainment?
Well, that's my new business. It's funny because when I first started the business, I really didn't have a name at first. And I decided that, well, you got Spider-Man, you got Batman, you got Dora the Explorer, you have all these different characters, and they're out here being princesses and princes and superheroes for folks. But what does a superhero do? They perform in a character-like attitude. And so Characterville was originated because I could visualize all these different characters in one place, being able to put a smile on kids' face. And so one day I was in my room and my creative genes just started to work, and I realized that Characterville would be a good, catchy name. And so it's actually quite a few attention. So I'm excited about that. People are gravitating to the name, and hopefully it'll be a name that grows throughout decades.
I bet it will. So what kind of parties are available for kids? All ages?
All ages. So we have different parties. Our company, we're a premier entertainment company. So we provide the character mascots. So they could have a party where a character is involved and the children get to work with, play around with the characters. We also have opportunities for the parents to enhance their party. So we have all kinds of rental equipment. So we have the snow cone machine and the popcorn machines and all the different LED photo booths that glow in the dark. And so we have a lot of different attractions that the normal party may not have. And so our company is one who tried to set the mark with doing some different activities for the children. We do musical chairs. We do Simon Says with the kids. The characters actually dance and perform different dances, the new dances or the latest dances that come out. They actually go out there and they perform those dances. So we have parties at daycares. We have parties at churches. We have parties at people's homes. We also provide services to different vendors that are doing events outside. So if we have celebratory events, our characters can go out. And who doesn't love Mickey or Minnie Mouse, right? There's some very, very popular characters. And so we get a chance to really step into people's lives for that particular moment and give them a chance to have a good time.
Well, Miss Hosein, I would love to keep on talking, but you see we're running out of time. So it was great talking with you, and I hope you have good success in your next video.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Hosein, for joining us today on PJY and for the wonderful conversation. Coming up after these messages is Miss Diedra Henry-Spires. Stay tuned.
I just walked by and I said, "What's happening, guys?" And they told me they were making music.
It's the way you walk, it's the way you talk. I like his music.
They said I could play, so any chance to play at all. You know, that's my life. I love music.
Yeah, that's how we do it.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with me. Joining me now in my studio is Miss Diedra Henry-Spires. Miss Diedra Henry-Spires is the Chief Executive Officer of the Dalton Daley Group, a Maryland-based nonprofit organization that promotes opportunities for good-paying jobs, public health, and the well-being of all families and communities. Mrs. Spires is also a former United States Senate staffer and a sought-after expert. Mrs. Henry-Spires is dedicated to serving Prince George's County. Welcome, Mrs. Spires. Thanks for joining me today on PGY.
Thanks, Ava. It's a delight to be here.
No, a delight to see you. Well, my first question for you is, tell us about the Dalton Daley Group.
Well, the Dalton Daley Group is a nonprofit advocacy group. We specialize in making sure other nonprofits reach their full potential. We focus on families, children, and communities. That means any issue that helps families, that helps children, and helps communities are ones that we'll lift up. So if your organization is doing something that we think is phenomenal, let's say around getting food to families, instead of coming up with our own program that does the same thing, which is a little redundant and repetitive, we'll get behind you, lift up what you're doing, make sure people on Capitol Hill and in state legislatures know about it, make sure community members know how to reach you, and just broadcast the good work that you're doing. We'll even help you find funding to continue doing the work that you're doing.
That's very cool. Okay, well, I love that. What do you do as a CEO of Dalton Daley Group?
Well, CEO means Chief Executive Officer, so it's my job to make sure that the organization runs every day, that there are clients to be served, that we have partners to work with, that the work is getting done. You know, there's a saying, it's good to be the boss, but it's also hard to be the boss. That means the work never ends. That means if it's not finished, I've got to keep going, whether it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I've got to keep doing the work to make sure it gets done. I'm also responsible for hiring, making sure we have good folks working with us, putting on programs, all the day-to-day operations of the organization.
Well, that's my mom. Don't you see the resemblance here? What is your favorite part of your job?
Let's see, my favorite part of my job is when I get to go out and talk to communities. So because of the work I've done, sometimes I get called to do keynote addresses, and you know, I may fly to another state or go to other places to talk to groups of folks that are doing good work or need to be inspired to keep doing good work. Sometimes working as a nonprofit organization, it means an organization that makes money but invests that money back into the organization or the community. It gets hard. It gets hard every day to keep yourself motivated to be basically in the business of service all day, every day. So one of the things I love to do is go and make sure people know that they're appreciated for what they're doing, that what they do in a community matters, that they have the ability to affect change, and that they are changing lives. I feel like anyone that knows that they're being effective can keep going, and we really need good people to keep serving communities all over this country. I think that's my favorite thing that I do.
Wow. And I think it's my favorite thing to hear you staying motivated. Before becoming a CEO, you worked on Capitol Hill.
Okay.
What did you do there?
So I was a Senate staffer with the Senate Committee on Finance. I started there really before you were born, and I really enjoyed my time there. So I worked for Senator Max Baucus. He was the senator from Montana. Now, you know, I'm not from Montana. No. So I didn't know if we would have a lot in common. I just knew that I wanted to work on issues with health and human services and making sure people were provided good health care. He saw that I had the skill set to do that job for him and hired me as part of the health team on the Senate Finance Committee. I got to work on bills like the Affordable Care Act before it became the Affordable Care Act. I was part of the team that wrote that law when you were just an itty-bitty baby. I got to work on unemployment insurance, making sure people could eat and families could keep their homes through what was called the deep recession. It was one of the longest economic downturns we've had in our country that outside of the Great Depression. So I got to do a lot of cool things at the Senate Finance Committee. It was really a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, what does it take to work on the Hill?
What does it take to work on the Hill? So in any job description for a position on Capitol Hill, there is one sentence that is in every single job description on Capitol Hill. Former Hill service, a plus, or must have former Hill experience. And what that means is to get a job there, you had to have had a job there. So how do you do that? The only way to do that is either to have interned there as a young person or someone in high school or college, to have made an introduction to the Hill so that you know how it works. The other thing that's really important for a position on the Hill, good communication skills. You need to be able and comfortable talking to people of all walks of life, folks that you may not have experienced before, because that is the people's building. The Capitol, the United States Capitol, is the people's building. It is open to the public at all hours of the day and night, and people come in expecting to see their representatives and to have an interaction that makes them know they're an American and that this government is for them. And working there, you have to be able to represent that. So you have to be able to talk to just about anyone, and also good writing skills are really a plus.
Wow.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of focus and hard work. One thing we girls have in common.
We girls do have that in common.
You recently ran for public office in Prince George's County. Why did you do that?
You know, working for the great state of Montana was a lot of fun. And then working for this country, and thankfully I had a boss that understood his responsibility to the entire country. So I could feel comfortable that any policy I worked on for the senator would impact the people of Maryland. But really, there's a scripture that says charity, which means love, begins at home. I live in Prince George's County.
Right.
I have children in Prince George's County. I leave work and I come home here, and now I run a Maryland-based nonprofit, so I even work in Prince George's County. Where else would I want to make change? Where else would I want to improve? And I really saw a need in my community for folks to understand the power of the law to change lives.
Right.
Right.
So, what do you think are the most important issues for kids to pay attention to in Prince George's County?
You know, there's so much going on in the world today, and you all are bombarded with so much information. I didn't have a cell phone when I was growing up. I didn't get news 24/7. So I think I feel for you, but if there were 3 things I'd pay attention to as a Prince Georgian young person: 1, education, making sure the educational system in Prince George's County is state of the art and is the best to be found in this country. It's truly possible. There's enough funding in this county, and they're incredibly smart people, but we need an education system that matches. 2, I would want to pay attention to the water, quality of the water, particularly in my schools, the quality of the air, like is there mold in my school buildings, things like that. And then lastly, getting the skills I need for the 21st century, meaning, do I know how to communicate with another human being? Am I using the technology that's at my disposal wisely? Am I just on Instagram, or am I just chatting with friends? Or am I using the fact that I have a pocket computer called a cell phone that I can access information from all over the world with the touch of my fingers? Those are the 3 things I think about: education, health and well-being through our water and our food in our school system, and then how we use technology in a way that's smart and helpful to us, but doesn't hurt our social skills.
Right.
Right.
So, how do we as kids and community members keep up to date on these issues?
Well, I think there are a lot of resources. I mentioned the smart use of technology. You can find out what's going on all over the world with just typing in a few words. The other thing that I think is really helpful are old-fashioned tools like newsletters. I put out a newsletter that I'll be sure to make sure you know about and get the information from. But really tapping into what your public officials are doing. They put out information. Visit some of these free buildings. Go visit Annapolis. Go visit the county council, go visit Capitol Hill, and have conversations. I really want to applaud you for the work that you're doing with this show. I think this can be a venue to make sure kids and community members really know what's happening in our community. So I thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Well, one more thing I'd like to bring to our attention is sample ballots, because I know it is a problem here in Prince George's County. Now, we have seen other counties do this, and I think you, as a public advocate and leader, can help us with that, because they are leading a lot of young people wrong, and I think indeed that could be a big change if we were to fix that issue.
Well, okay, Miss Ava, I will be sure to get on it. I like that you bring up something that has nothing to do with party affiliation or anything like that. It's just about the right of every Prince Georgian to vote and be fully informed. That's a wonderful thing, and I'll make sure that I continue to press on that issue, since it means so much to you, as well it should, to protect your right and the right of every citizen in Prince George's County to vote fairly and effectively.
Okay. Well, you are dear. Is there anything else you would like to talk about?
You know, I just think it's important for our young people to know that there are people that care about them, that there are people that want to ensure their future. I think it's also important for young people to engage in what's called civic activity. We hear a lot these days about civics being taken out of the classroom, meaning not knowing how our government works, that there are two branches of Congress, you know, there are two houses in the Congress, that there are three branches of government at the federal level. And so I think these are basic pieces of knowledge that young folks should have, and that's something that really concerns me.
Remember, when you were running for delegate, I did not know what a delegate was at all. And that is because people were not including that in things such as history books, or literally just telling us about what's inside of a government. And I think that's a big point, and I'm glad that you talked on that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, and I think we can do more. Just as young people, you should feel free to ask your history teacher. We all have social studies, we all have history, and just ask, how does this county, how does our government work? You know, how does the county government work? I see these folks on TV. What do they do? What is their job? Because they do make the laws that we live by, and good laws make a difference in how you live. These are rights, the right to know this information, the right to vote. These are our rights that were hard fought, no matter who you are, whether it's from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War to the suffrage movement to the Voting Rights Act. It doesn't matter who you are. The right to vote and participate in your government and in your community was hard fought.
Right.
Right.
Well, it was lovely talking with you, Ms. Spires.
Thank you, Ava.
Or
I'm
should I
so
say
glad I got
Mom?
to. Well, you can say Mom. I'm so glad I got to be here and help you on this first show. I'm wishing you all the luck in the world. I know it's going to be terrific.
Well, you are terrific. Well, I love the points you hit on and the fact that you put so much dedication and time into this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mrs. Henry-Spires, it has been wonderful to talk with you today. Thanks for joining me. It looks like it's time to wrap up the show. I want to thank both of our guests, Miss Ciara Hosein and Mrs. Diedra Henry-Spires, for joining me today. We need more people like you. Thank you so much for what you are doing in the community to make it better for my generation. We appreciate your efforts. We wish you all success in your future endeavors, and good luck, Ms. Hosein, on your new business. We here at Prince George's Youth Leading on the Issues would like to thank all of our viewers for tuning in. PGY is here to educate, motivate, inspire, uplift all of our youth. I'm Ava Spires. See you next time on PGY.